reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect! Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect mode.
Perfect.
What up? What up? Welcome to Perfect Mode. And first off, let me start by telling y'all that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, hopefully in helping you realize that you are perfect. And the only reason, and I mean the only reason you would think that you're not perfect is if you're looking at this person on the side of you and saying, I'm not them. But guess what? You are you, and that's all you need. And of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood real JClay spiritual rapper teacher, and we about to jump on here and talk about the mirror principle. The mirror principle, what the world reflects about who? You. What up, Jay?
Yo, what up? Happy Sunday to all my perfect people in the perfect world, doing the perfect thing at the perfect place at the perfect time, because there's nowhere else to be in the perfect present. And yeah, man, shout out to our Patreon. Go ahead and click that link to support. And I'm ready to jump into this because this is one of those topics of what reality really is, and it's never changing, it's never compromising, it's always that reflection, and it's important that we speak about it.
So, the funniest thing is when I saw this topic, I think it's supposed to make you think about yourself, right? It's supposed to make you think about in that moment, what am I seeing about the world, and what do I think about it?
Yeah.
And the funniest, I want to tell you, the first thing that came to my mind was, man, my life is good. That's how I felt in the moment. But then I also went down a pathway of thinking about the times when I'm not happy or I feel bad about specific situations. Like this is what happened like in an instant of a second, me seeing the topic. And then I thought about how what I thought about those things could have been different, which in order would have potentially changed my mind. But again, I want to know what your initial thoughts were when you saw the topic.
Yeah, it's so many thoughts. Like this is, in a way, this mirrors some of our other topics. But I really want to get a good look at it because the world is one of these modern day idols. We don't realize that has our attention, and we might say, man, the world is doing this, or the world, this is what's wrong with the world. This is that about the world, and we're not realizing that the world is not a fixed place. The world is not the same world for everyone. Even me and you, even though we're synced up right now and synced up a lot, we're still in different worlds. And that world really is a reflection, and it says something about you if you will allow it. And then you can actually change the world by changing yourself, which I'm sure many have heard many of times.
No, I 100% agree. And that's the reason why, again, in my reflection moments that I was just telling you about, I literally went to the things that I deemed myself are things that I don't like, or things that are unwanted, or things that look ugly. And I had to kind of reevaluate. Again, this is only in a moment's time of me thinking about this,
Yeah.
just kind of how did I really perceive these things? And then look at myself and say, well, really, what was negative about them if what I have and what I want and the way that I'm living, I deem as great, right? And again, a true reflection for me is always my kids.
Yeah.
You know, as a parent, the one thing that I always felt like I wanted to do was be able to give my kids everything. Well, what is everything? I mean, you could think it's a material thing, but I think it's more, again, this is just me saying, it's more of an opportunistic idea, like allowing my kids to understand that everything or anything is possible and look at what's all in front of you. Versus again, when I come back and if I think about any given moment and say that I didn't like it or it wasn't ideal, is because in those moments I've deemed something impossible, or I've deemed uh something that I can't have, or something like that, something there's a limitation put on me, and it's a crazy idea. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we naturally share. We can't help but share. We are sharing creatures. We're going to share everything. And I don't mean like necessarily sharing possessions, but the sharing of ideas, the sharing of visions. It's like, ooh, look at this. Look what I'm witnessing right now. Look what I'm experiencing. Or let me tell you about what I experienced before last week, something like that. And in that sharing, we're cultivating a joint world where it's like, okay, you can see into my world, I can see into your world. And so there's no separation between that. And what we don't realize is every sharing is a co-creation of the universe we have. It's like we're planting a seed. So if we would say the world is going to hell, we're planting a seed with everyone that would listen, including ourselves, that whatever your idea of hell is, it's gonna merge with your idea of the world. But if you're like, man, like you said, like, I mean, I'm feeling good about everything. Like everything is this is a good place to be in. I'm in a good space. That too is you're sharing that, you're cultivating that, you're co-creating that with all that would listen, again, including yourself, including your subconscious mind.
Yeah. So again, that kind of piggybacks on the point that you're making about it only being your world, and I 100% wholeheartedly agree with that. And again, me having kids, I get to it's like an instantaneous observation that I get to have in all things, because again, we all have to realize we're only living within ourselves. And based off what you're saying, like everything that we experience with other people is always the only thing we could do is share. Because if I'm
Yeah.
only living within myself, the only thing I can do is tell you what I'm thinking, and or show you what I'm thinking, or act on what I'm thinking. And it's all an observation from somebody else. You can say something. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so check this out. This was cool about it. Like everything is an instant observation. So even your kids. So technically, like there's infinite versions of your kids, but you only see the version based on what you are giving to them in that moment, based on what you've put out to them and held on to of your idea of what this moment is, which includes your past. Because again, the past is only happening in the present because you're holding the idea of that's what led you to the present. But it's all here, and so when you realize the version of people that we see are just the version that we're allowing ourselves to see is mind blowing, because I've seen close relationships change for the better because I was willing to see the best, if that makes sense.
So I'm with you 100%. And I would give you an exact time where me sharing something, the instantaneous reaction from somebody else, which is my kid, and then how I had to try to respond to it. Now, again, the only time when we're unhappy is when there's a limitation imposed on us, or we impose it on ourselves. So here recently, TJ, my son, is high about everything. I mean, he's in the National Junior Honor Society. He's the president of that. He's in something called Model UN, where he gets to represent different countries and go and debate. He's also playing basketball on the basketball team. He's also playing football on the football team. This is all happening within each other, right? And so he also just recently got a job with the Dallas Mavericks, being able to work for the team. And so we're coming to the end of the football season, and he started talking about, him playing football next year. And we were like, well, hey, we've already told you for the past years that at some point you're going to have to wind down all the things that you're doing, because you don't have enough time in the day to facilitate everything that you're facilitating. Now, again, a lot of this is him not processing what I'm processing.
Yeah.
I'm processing the fact that I remember the day when he got out of school and he had to go straight to football practice, and right when he left football practice, he had to go to basketball practice. And in those moments, there was a bit of sadness, because he felt like, dang, I'm not going to be able to play the game today, because when I get out of basketball practice, I got to do homework, and then I got to go to sleep, right? And so, me running these things through my mind, I tell him, well, hey, I've already told you that you're gonna have to kind of figure out a way to do this. Again, limitation, not anything, but you can see his entire demeanor or his world changing in those moments. I can see him taking a downturn on what he feels like he's capable of doing. And then his rebut to it is, well, didn't LeBron play football? Didn't Allen Iverson play football? Didn't Deion Sanders play baseball or Michael Jordan play baseball? And I said, they did, but number one, we don't know what else they were doing again. And then also they were mastering the things that they were doing already in order to fulfill those other things that they wanted to do. All right. Now again, this is nothing but me creating all kind of limitations for my son. In that moment, he just stops and puts his head down. And I see it, and I realize, and again, it's not something that I want to do, but it's me helping him realize him. Now, again, I said that to say, now again, I don't know what he's thinking, right? I can only assume. So that's the one thing that you're talking about that we hold on to, right? But what I would like to think, or what I hope that I thought that I was thinking, was him processing, dang, there are some things that it's not that I'm able to do them. I just don't have the time to do them in the way that I would like to, because of the way that I'm trying to fulfill my life, right? And again, this, and to me, that direct relation to an instantaneous reaction, how your world changes and how limitation can kind of form the way that you're feeling about things. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So, like, even in that story, I'm kind of with TJ, um, because it's one of the. But again, I know your intentions for your son like are the highest. You want the best for your son, and normally those loved ones, when we share things with them, we're not trying to put limitations on them. We're trying to set their expectations. And again, we're doing something that we don't even want to do, but we're we're trying to teach lessons that we didn't enjoy learning, without even considering, like, well, maybe they could be the exception to what I think can be done. Maybe they can find a way to balance all of these things, or maybe they can find a way to make all of this happen. And it comes again, us remembering that, oh, I'm creating this right now by saying this person has to live in this world according to me. When that's just trapping me in my own world, because now I'm believing in the limitations that I'm seeing.
So that's the second part to this, right? Now, again, that's why I said in those moments, he's not processing all that I processed from him.
Yeah,
Now, you're right. Of course, I'm using limitation as a term so that way we can make the conversation make sense. But of course, I don't feel like my kids have any limitations. You're right, setting expectations. But in that, again, I'm processing what I've seen from him, the way that I saw him articulate how he felt about it in the moment. But I'm also articulating the way that I feel about it, right? And that's the part that you're talking about, and I get it. And that's where the mirror comes into play, because through all that he said and that he exhibited toward me, I also put myself in his place, though I'm not there. And I said, well, if I was in his shoes, I would feel this kind of way. And so now, whenever that comes to my life, my world, I look at all the things that I have and I say, well, this is probably the reason why I'm not able to excel here. And the reality of it is, that is the reason why I'm not able to excel, because I've already created that limitation that we're talking about. But go ahead, Jay.
yeah. And if we remember, like, the more we give, the more we get to keep. Like, again, like the things that we share with others, we're strengthening them in ourselves. We're making it bigger in our world. So the more freedom we can give people, the more freedom we have. The more I don't know, we just uplift people, the more we feel uplifted. And it's cool how it works, because a lot of the limitations that we have are the ones that we've witnessed. And again, we probably shared it with somebody on a one-off comment, not even realizing how commonly we spew limitations at even ourselves and others. And it's not till we just kind of take a pause and see what we're sharing, see what we're thinking, see how we look at certain situations when we come up to something. Like a lot of people use money as an example, where they say, this is expensive, and like that's a straight limitation. That's saying that, okay, I'm not aligned with being expensive, or I'm not aligned with the amount of money that this would cost where this wouldn't be expensive. And so I'm caught being on the outside looking in at all of this, at this great life that I want, thinking that I can't have it. And all of that in this one simple phrase, that's too expensive.
So funny that you say that. And again, it's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about the situation that I just told you, because in it, even as I was doing it, and I think this is big when we talk about the mirror principle, because recognizing where you are, what you're presenting is important. So the moment I recognize the limitation. I even for me to articulate it to you today, prior to this, I had already thought about it. I thought about it while it, but generally, what I try to use is generic terminology for my family, just in general. And so, if you were to ask me, can I do this as well? I would answer something to the effect of, you have enough time to, right? Or if you feel like you're capable of it, right? And that's generally how I respond. Now, again, in this specific instance, there are a lot of factors that went into play for my decision for saying it, which again, I gave you some of them. But again, when I come back and I think about myself, even you said when you give things to other people, there's always a generalized yes you can type of feel to any kind of answer, because you don't want to impose those type of limitations on yourself, because the reality, is that what you said is that that you give, you get to keep, you get to hold, and you might not think of it or see it on the forefront, but it's literally something that you live with. It's something that you have in concrete made yourself a believer in. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the good thing though is that, like, how do I say this? The lessons that you're teaching too aren't the harsh type. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times I've seen um parents or just people like me, yeah, I gotta teach them a lesson. I gotta teach them a lesson. They gotta learn this how the world is. They gotta learn that the world is harsh, that the world is they won't look out for you and stuff. And it's like, but you're the one that's doing this to this person that you love. The world isn't doing this at all. It's you. And so now they live with that and they move according to that, and they perpetuate that same mindset, that same ruling without even realizing it. And so again, like it's mindfulness is the key. Like, really see what you're saying, because even when I did it to myself initially, I was shocked. I was like, man, this is why I'm in this world. This is why the world doesn't look as bright as it does to me, because I'm constantly seeing this and saying this. And real quick, shout out to him, Lau. Yo yo.
What up, him louse? So I want to tell you, what this also made me think about is I have a good friend. When we were in college, he was, pledging. And when you pledge or when you try to pledge, they give you all these mind games and things of that nature to try to test to see how you're going to respond.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I always stuck with me, now I'm gonna fast forward real quick before I tell you what stuck with me. The person that I'm talking about is the most positive person. I mean, he's always overcoming things that you would think that someone wouldn't overcome, but he literally just he figures out a way a lot of the times, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's a millionaire. He's just successful in his own right, in his own way, right? But the thing that stuck with me was he told me the question that they asked him when he was in online one day was, "Can a duck pull a truck?" Right? And they asked him that. And again, when he told me, in my mind, I was thinking, "Nah, a duck can't pull a truck." You know what I'm saying? Like, just all the things that you would think as an answer, because you
Yeah.
got to give them a good answer, right? And his answer was, "If the duck is strong enough," right? And so it's like a aha moment. It's and it shows how we form limitations that are not necessary, because there was no description of the duck strength, there was no description of the duck size nor the truck size, right? And
Right.
so what we end up doing is we held on to something from the past, i.e., me using my son as the example. Now, I told you there were a lot of things I was processing when I told him what I was telling him. Now, again, I didn't want to tell him any of it, because there are things that I held on to, but there are other things that I could have held on to. One thing is my son is straight A student, right? He's excelling in all his sports, right? So again, these are not things that are in the forefront. It's the
Yeah.
other things that I saw that were a problem for him, and it just goes to show you um, how we function. And again, bringing it back to me, there are always a lot of positive things that are in opposition of what are the things that are holding me back. I can always think of the good things or the positive things or the more promising idea, but we hold on to the other things instead. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So two things. One, like, so knowing who you are, to me, you are someone that I call you a go-getter. You're gonna figure it out, you're gonna make it happen, regardless of the limitations, limitations, constraints, or whatever. And so I would assume that your son inherited all of that and he sees all of this. So in his mind, I'm gonna make it work. It's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna figure it out. And then, and so I'm just saying this as a reminder, like, yeah, he definitely can do this all. Not to say it's gonna be easy, not to say he's gonna enjoy every moment, but it's one of those learning experiences, which is cool. And then secondly, I wanted to read this lyric that I was kind of proud of a song that's coming out soon, but I just wanted, but it points to this, like, the jailed becomes the jailer, enforcing rules he was teached. Too busy jailing more jealous, jailer forgets that he's free. Jailer calls everyone jealous when they don't care for his key, because jailer sold on the sale, he tried to sell one to me. And what that means is, like, oftentimes we go on just enforcing these rules that we were taught, and we just pass it on to the next man, not realizing again that we're locking ourselves in these cells. You're a free man, but you're proclaiming limitations. You're proclaiming sentences on yourself that you don't have to, and it's like, let that go, man. Like give everyone their freedom papers.
The funniest thing is on the most simplistic side of what you just said. I mean, if you look at any person, I ain't gonna say any person, but I've heard a lot of stories, I'll say it like that, from correctional officers, right? And those correctional officers, they won't necessarily say it the way that I'm saying it, but they ended up forgetting what side they were on. And so there are plenty stories where correctional officers are participating in helping facilitate crimes going on in the jail. There are plenty instances where correctional officers are participating in sexual activities with prisoners in the jail. There are plenty. There are plenty examples, if you look, where the correctional officers felt like they were prisoners of their own job. And again, these are just stories that I've heard just listening to people. And it's I mean, so I'm gonna give you some love real quick. Fire line,
Appreciate it.
fire analogy, fire wordplay, and rhyming with it. It was all tight. But your point is definitely 100%. And again, so that way we don't separate ourselves from the point. You as a correctional officer in jail, the point is here, these rules that we create are our prison. Everything that you're enforcing on someone, those lines end up being blurred because you live what you speak. You're living the words that come out of your mouth. You're only willing to reinforce stuff that you know. Like, nobody's running around reinforcing things that they don't know. And so that which you see, that mirror, the things that you've even deemed the world to be, are the things that are within you. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, because yeah, you can't separate yourself from what you're giving and what you're receiving. It's one. So even to take it out of the jail, like, if you're a manager and you're micromanaging an employee and they feel like they're being watched, in the same instance, you're being held in that same captivity because you have to watch them. You have to micromanage them. So you're in a space where, a sense where, like, you're in the same boat as the person you're watching, and you wonder, like, man, yeah, these employees, they suck, they this, but it's you adding the suckage to the situation, not realizing it. And the quicker we can get to realizing what we receive and how we receive things in this moment is based on what we're giving the moment, based on how we're defining the moment, the quicker we can live a better life. Because again, that's not to say that things won't happen that you don't agree with,
Real
but
talk.
you don't have to give it a negative meaning. You don't have to, You don't have to give that like, oh, this means this, everything messed up, this messed up my whole day. You don't have to give it that meaning. You can say, you know what, this happened for a reason. I'm gonna receive whatever that high reason is, because I know God led me here for a reason.
Bro, you want me to tell you what's funny about this? This is what, okay, so you're talking about reframing the thought process or how you look at it, regardless of the outcome. And now this is funny that this even comes to me. And again, I have tons of people that are around me, including myself. I may even uttered this phrase before. He may not come when you want to, but he's always. And everybody, there's a lot of people around me that have that same sentiment, like God always comes on time. And so what that creates is, or what that's crafting is, a world where I'm going to be in a situation, and right when I need him, he gonna come. Versus saying God is always early, God is always up front. You know what I'm saying? And again, the funniest part to this is that even in me saying it, experiencing it myself, number one, but also seeing other people say this, he always do show up right when they need him, right? Like it's it's funny when you just think about, and again, there's a lot of different factors that we can bring into this whole scenario when you talk about that. But it's funny to think that a lot of people that's a principle, and their life reflects that. It happens over and over again, and you have to ask yourself why. You have to ask yourself why I'm not changing what I think, so that way that can also change as well. But go ahead, Jay. My bad.
Yeah, a lot of times when people be like, I knew it, I knew that was gonna happen, it's because again they're creating this reality. But what would happen if they knew what they really wanted? Like, and again, like, we don't realize that it's that easy. It's the same. You're adding thoughts and emotions to it. It's the same exact thing. What if you knew it? But a lot of times people will have more faith in the problem than they would the solution. But again, it's the same faith, and you can have it in whatever you want to, and have faith in yourself, if anything. Or like you said, have faith that God is always here. Not when you need him. He's here when you need him, when you don't need him, just when you want him, when you don't want him, he's always here. Like, you could set it up however you want to.
And again, only reason I bring it up because number one, when we talking about it, it was just in the forefront of my mind. But the
Yeah.
reality of it is, we could think about, like, no matter what it is, like, but the question I guess you have to say, so let me just step back, right? The mirror principle, what the world reflects about you, right? I am giving off to the world, and I'm seeing back that God is always on time. Like, I'm telling everybody that, and that mug is coming back to me. What is the hang up? And just using that as an example, that's why I like terms of, I don't like the term, but I do like the sentiment of fake it till you make it, right? That's why I like the sentiment of that, because I don't like the term for it. I wish we can come up with a different, terminology for it, because you can just like live it until you realize it or something. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Something crazy like that. But there's a negative connotation tied to that, right? It's the reason why people don't want to be open. They don't want to mirror that to other people, because it doesn't feel real to them. And I guess that's the question is, how do we get to the point where these things that we're talking about um, are easily done? For myself, you know, people always give me love. And the reason why is because I always give everybody love. If I talk to you about anything that you're doing, I am going to give you a positive outlook, a positive under all circumstances, right? It's just going to be how it's going to happen. So whenever people talk to me, if they hear me talk to them, which I rarely do, they're going to be like, "Nah, you got this, mug." And the only reason I feel like that happens is because they know my nature. I've
Yeah.
shown them what it is, and it has to come back to me. But that same rule can apply to everything. And the question is, using myself, using you, when it comes to whatever you got going on, but just people in general, why is it so hard to try to reflect what we want to reflect back to us?
Yeah, so I wouldn't even say it's hard. Um, it's just out of practice. You wanted to experience the opposite for some reason. Maybe somebody told you it's better to live this way, or you just forgotten about your own power. So like the previous show, we talked about how each of us has a unique perspective to the unconscious that we can bring out to the conscious and show the world. So we all know things, or we can tap into this knowledge that no one in the world can tap into, and we can essentially make something out of no thing. And when we tap into that and trust ourselves, it's easy to live it because we know it. Like we see it. You might not see it yet, and that's the fun part. Like okay, I'm gonna figure out how to get you to see this. I'm gonna get you to see what I know is there. So it's not even fake it till you make it. It's just you um, know it, and show others so that they can know it too. Like I
Know
know
it
that
and
doesn't
show it.
rhyme like that, but
Know it and show it, baby.
yeah, actually today, when I was driving back from basketball, I was writing a song, and the first line is live it if it isn't really if it live it even if it really isn't like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a way, but same sentiment.
Yeah. Know it and show it, baby. Know it and show
Yeah,
it. I like it. But so here's another funny thing about this conversation. And again, I'm telling, and I know that you may have experience, you may not have experienced this before. You can tell me, but there have been times where I'm talking to different people, and their response to me was, "Well, that's everybody don't always want to hear that all the time." I've had that happen to me before, right? And the funniest part about it was in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, but this is what you need to hear, right? This is what I was thinking. But I had to go back now. This is where the mirror reflects. I had to really dig deep down and say, have I ever said that? And the reality was, I never said it, but I've thought it. When somebody was talking to me, I took it, but I literally thought to myself, but I don't want to hear that. I really don't want to hear this right now. And again, these are things that you might not feel like you are exhibiting, but everything exhibits it. Your body language, the way that and you have to rid yourself of that of what you don't want. But go ahead, Jay.
yeah, and to that, like, stuff like that, I smile because I say to people, well, you know that if you was bringing this to me, that you have no choice but to hear this. So that means you really want to hear this because you know who I am and you know what I'm gonna say. And then on the flip side of them sharing whatever this limitation is, like the way I see it's a new way for me to teach. Like it's a new way for me to add into my world a way to overcome that limited belief in that particular way. Because everybody has their own unique way of seeing things, so their limitations are slightly different, even though it's all the same. And I really enjoy teaching that, sharing that. Like, nah, you don't gotta live like this. Like, there's another way. There's a better way if you're open to it. And even that better way has a better way, which is like the most mind blowing, this coolest thing ever. So yeah, I'm with you. Like and I've heard you say this before, where don't hold yourself back because for the sake of someone else, because they're talking to you for a reason, because they want you to be you.
Yep, yep. And the other piece to that is, again, I told you how I had to think about, because I, I'm a true believer in this reflection. Like,
Yeah,
I know everything that I have an adverse feeling about, even the stuff that I have a positive reaction to, I know that it's something that I've put out and I'm just receiving back. So using the example that I just told you, where I know I haven't verbally said that to somebody, but I know I felt that way before. But I think that the other part to it is being open to whatever the response is truly. You know what I mean? Because a big part of that is you being able to talk, and no matter what is given back, not necessarily saying it has to be something that you're in agreement or that you're going to, I guess, run your life by, but being, like you said, open to seeing the perspective of other people. Because when you're and without judgment is the key here, seeing the perspective without the judgment. Because what you're wanting from people is not necessarily acceptance on what you're saying either, but you're wanting them to be open perspective without judgment. And again, that's the big piece to that. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, man. As someone, I remember my conversations with other kids when I was a kid. Like, I don't know how I remember this stuff. And again, I know you're a parent, so you've heard a lot of kid conversations. Kids will not be on the same page, but it does not matter. Like, this kid talking about this kid talking about this, but they're together, they're having a conversation with each other, and none of it's matter. One is not trying to tell the other that you need to diminish your goals or that this can't happen. You just open to it, like you said, without that judgment. And we can be like that, but again, people can sometimes make what someone's saying, like, they can be fearful of it because they think it will influence the whole world. Like, even though they know that what's being shared could be nonsense, like, oh, that's not true, like people would get mad at them for saying something that's nonsense. It's like, no, don't get mad at them. They're doing themselves a disservice because they're bringing falsity into their world. They're bringing into their world where they can't trust the power of their own tongue. So it's not to be mad at them. You get just learn from them. Like, nah, I don't want to live my life like that. I appreciate you showing me a version that could be lived out, but this is just not for me.
So I want to I want to give you tell you something that happened yesterday. So yesterday we went to a FC Dallas game, which is a professional soccer team game last night.
Yeah.
And when we were on our way out there, we get in the car, and it's an hour drive. Literally for the first 30 minutes of the trip, Brody was going ham. I mean, like, we quiet in the car, and in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I just want to tell him this to chill, bro. Like, just chill, right? Like, just because I'm telling you, like, he's going to have I'm Slim Shady. Like, he just saying everything, like everything that he could possibly think of to say for 30 minutes straight. He just rapping, singing, just talking, just going hard, right? And I had I'm hearing it, but I'm thinking all at the same time. And I'm thinking to myself, what world do I want this to be? Right? What world do I what world am I wanting to create? Do I want a world where somebody's trying to stop me from expressing myself in whatever way I know possible in this moment? And so what I ended up doing, even though I was getting ran up the wall, like, it was I'm talking about nonstop. I just didn't say anything, and I
Yeah.
just let him go. He just the whole time, and he was so excited. He was just like, "You hear that, Dad? I'm rhyming. Did you hear that?" I was like, "Yeah, you were singing Slim Shady." No, I was doing my version of Slim Shady. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you were doing your version." And I mixed this song, and he just going ham. And again, then I bring it back to myself in the life that I'm living now. I do want the exact same thing that he had. And the reality of it is I do have that. And because of me not cutting off the limitations of others, because I know people might think that well, nobody's going to come on and tell us on perfect mode not to do what we're doing. But it's not about anybody else coming on perfect mode telling. It's going to be me telling myself that I don't need to do it because nobody wants to hear that. And that's the way that reflection kind of uh works on you, because it's you working on yourself. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. And what's cool about your story too is that in some ways that was a form of meditation for him. So, and what I mean is, like, one, he had a safe environment where he can share. Because I know he's going to school now and stuff, and you got to be quiet, you got to be obedient, all the natural instincts that people don't have. And it's like you have to just sit here in this box for 8 hours a day or whatever. But that's my limitations on school that are coming out right now. Anyway, but yeah, but a lot of times you need that outlet to allow your thoughts to settle, and you can do it in silence, you can do it out loud, you can do it through sport or exercise, but you need that outlet to settle. And I've seen some instances where some parents are like, shut up, like, and so all of that gets bottled in and never sees an outlet, and then it grows in an inhumane way, and it can come out in ways like, man, why did they lash out like that? Is because it didn't have a natural outlet. And so I commend you for allowing him to have that. And like you said, you freed up yourself in your world by allowing that as well. It's like, oh yeah, I'm allowed to be me whenever I want to be me, especially on the show.
Yeah, and I'm giving you one other piece to the puzzle by the end. Now, mind you, it was an hour drive, and again, this is not an exaggeration. When I say he went for 30 minutes, probably been more, like
Yeah.
straight. But we all were quiet in the car. Nobody was saying that. Everybody was just letting him do his thing. So when he finally stopped, TJ turned his phone on because his phone wasn't even on. He turned it up and he was listening to it, right? And Brody was like, TJ, can you turn that down because I can't hear stuff. And I was able to turn around and say, hey, we just got through letting you do what you wanted to do. Let him listen to what he wanted to. And literally, it was no fight. He literally just chilled out and let TJ listen to his stuff the whole way. So again, it it was a realization for himself as well that we can do what we want to do. So, but go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I applaud that whole situation because that's the stopper of everyone being their best selves is just believing that they're limited, believing that they can't be their best selves at every moment, believing and believing that there's no room for anyone else to shine. Like, oh, if they're shining, I can't shine, and that's
Hmm.
furthest from the truth. So even shout out to TJ too, who waited. He was like, okay, my brother doing this thing is cool. You done? All right, I'm gonna do my thing, and like that's beautiful.
Yeah, that boy was going. He was going. He was going ham in the car, bro. He was going ham bill yesterday, but not ultimately. I 100% agree with you, and I didn't even see the point of. I mean, I recognize TJ just allowing him to have his space, but you're right. You know, understanding without even saying anything that I'm gonna be okay. Just let me let me chill out, and him to know that he would have his time
Yeah.
is a great thing. But yeah, no, it's pretty tight. But I come back to the mirror, the principle, and then also when I was saying that what we cut off within ourselves, and you know there have been plenty times in my life I have because of what I told someone else. And it wasn't apples for apples. It could have been I was doing oranges and they were doing apples, but that same principle trickled over to my orange, and I still cut my orange short. And again, this is why I emphasize even for myself. Whenever I talk to people now, it's always uplifting. Number one, number two, if it's something that I feel like is impossible, I take the duck pulling the truck principle. Can a duck pull a truck? Yeah, if the duck is strong enough. And and that's to say that I don't have the answer for that. But I think that you can if you figure out the way. But go
Yeah.
ahead, Jay.
So check this out. Like, so speaking of the mirror principle, um, I've seen how people look at themselves in the mirror from being behind the mirror, and I'll give an example. Okay, so we have this app that Troy and I communicate on called Perfect Mode. I mean, called Marco Polo, and it's like you send video messages to each other, and like I have these conversations with others as well. And sometimes when people see their reflection, they'll point out something about themselves that they don't like, and they'll harp on it,
Man.
making it bigger, making it grander, sharing it more so that it becomes bigger. And I'm trying to figure out the words how to stress this, but it's like they get more caught up in the reflection, more more than what's being reflected, but not realizing that they're the one that's doing the reflection. So it's not even about the object that they see on their face or whatever, and it's not even about them seeing themselves because they're not seeing themselves. They're seeing their projection almost. And if you can remember that this is just a projection that you're seeing, you can change it even without physically changing something. Like and again, I can't stress that because I'm just now fully understanding that now. But it's again, there's no world. It's only your magnifying lens on it that you're seeing the reflection of what you're holding the magnifying glass on. And shout out to him, Lau.
Yeah. No, yeah, shouts out to him. Like he said, self-respect is important. And just kind of co-sign what you're saying, is I mean, if you've ever been in a relationship, if you married and or your husband comes to you when they're getting dressed and they say, "Do you see this?" And you looking like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And they'll point out something that you wouldn't have noticed. I mean, it was almost impossible for you to see unless they literally put their finger on it, right? And I'm saying this because my wife has done it before. I've heard other people do it before as well. And in these instances, I would literally tell her or whoever would say that to me is nobody would see that unless you point that out. Even point on Marco Polo, they're around us. They will point out things that I see them all the time, and I just not only do I not see what they're talking about, it's hard for me to even agree with what they're saying because it doesn't even make sense. And it's funny what we project in ourselves, but again, a part of that is based off what we're believe. Our projection is a lot of times what we're believing we think other people think. And one of the things that I'll tell you about me, I'm getting my hair is locking up now, right? I got locks now.
Mhm.
And you know, when I first started growing my hair, everybody would always talk to me about this lock journey. It's a journey. And so when I'm at this point that I'm at, I was talking to somebody and they were like, "Well, what you think about the journey?" And I was like, for me, it's just my hair growing. I had long hair before, so I don't think nothing of it. And I told them specifically, I said, I think that people probably be getting caught up in how it looks now while it's growing because they think that people are going to look at them in a way like why your hair look crazy or something, right? I don't know, right? And I said, well, I really don't really care about that. And they told me specifically, well, you're 100% right, Troy. Most people call it the ugly phase, right? Again, this is stuff that I don't know about this whole journey, right? And they don't like going through that phase because of perception of what they think other people think about them until they get to wherever they're trying to go. And the cool part for myself is I never looked at myself as going through an ugly phase because to me, I always look like me. And so the journey that I'm traveling is not the same as most people that will be going through what I'm going through because my perception is completely different. And to me that's the best interpretation that I can give to it because and just show you that even somebody that's gone through this journey before me, they can look at me through their lenses that they felt about themselves and see me the way that they saw themselves as well, even though it still does not reflect that way to me. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and to that, like I want to pose an open-ended question to anyone watching this, and it's rhetorical. But when you look at the world, when you look at a painting, when you look at your reflection, are you looking for what's wrong with it, or are you appreciating what's right with it? And because you can't do both, you can't both criticize and appreciate at the same time. You have to take time to do one or the other, and each comes with its cousins, so to speak. Like the once you see something wrong, you start noticing everything else wrong, and then you start believing in wrongness itself. But if you appreciate what's good, and then you start saying like, oh, this is all by design. This is all perfect. This was all always perfect, and you have that peace that comes along with it as well.
And I got an open-ended question to tag along with it. How can you not appreciate it? It's so different from everything else. How? It's literally different from everything else. How can you not appreciate it? And again, I point that out because I know for a fact, and this is not just in my world, the things that we've found ourselves being hooked to, whether it be social media, art, music, it was because it was different. It's the things that we love the most are the things that were different. And you don't give yourself the same credit that you give these things that you've fallen in love with because you're looking at them like they should be like something else. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Did I share with you the roach story?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so I belong. I go to this group on Tuesdays, the spiritual group. We just talk about different topics. And this one lady has shared how I think she said she was like at some kind of not a museum, something where they had like bugs and people can look at different types of insects and stuff. And so she came up to the roaches, which she personally doesn't like, but she knew that she didn't want to bring that bias to her daughter. So she said, she's like, "Oh, look at those roaches. Aren't they cute? Aren't they nice?" And then so the daughter was like, "Wow, they are cute. Look at them. Look at that." And so you can see the amazement of these roaches, which again is an insect a lot of people don't mess with. So then another lady came up and she's like, "Oh, this is disgusting. I can't deal with this," and walked away. And she said on her daughter's face, you can see the look of confusion come over her. It's like, wait, what do I do? I just thought this was cute. Now it's not anymore. What do I do? And then she lost interest and walked away. And that's very important because again, like we don't realize the impact we have on each other and how a lot of our likes and dislikes might not be genuine. It just might be because of some of the more polarizing figures around us that was their likes and dislikes, and we just accepted it. So again, it's important to discern too, like what you really enjoy for you and what you don't enjoy for you versus just going with the flow, so to speak.
Bro, no. 100%. 100%. I know this to be true. The reason being is because Brody growing up, which is my 6-year-old for everybody that's listening, I used to have a problem with, i- i.e., wife Charnay or my oldest TJ, which is 12 now, playing or running away from bugs. So, like, if a fly would come, TJ is not afraid of a fly, but he would be dramatic, like, oh, he'll be acting crazy about it, right? Or if it's a beetle or something that flies, beetles be coming when but like Charnel, like she'll and so what happens is I'm always trying to stay calm or cool, but he's around them more than he's around me when these instances would come up. But whenever I would be around, I would tell them, I'd be like, man, y'all chill, stop doing that. And it was forever for me to stop this kid from being afraid of flies, bro. Like every time I barbecue, flies are gonna come. It's just kind of how that mud goes, right? And he would not I'm talking about terrified of them. And trying to help someone reset that is a very, very big deal, or is a very challenging thing to do. So I definitely co-sign with how you inherit those type of behaviors based off what was presented to you from the very beginning.
Yeah, right, and to that point, I think you had posed the question too, like, why is it so hard for people to accept these things? Is because again, like it's out of practice. They practice the other mindset that they never thought about that it could be a different way. That why do I behave like this? Why do I react like this? Like I was taught this way, but does it really serve me? Do I want to continue acting this way? And you always have that choice.
So this is the challenge though, and I love where we are in this conversation, because we've asked some open questions, both of us, and then the challenge for me is for everybody is to whenever you have a reaction, whether it be a good or bad reaction, because I don't want it to all just be tied to things that we have a negative reaction to. I want it to be tied to every reaction that we have. When something happens and you have a reaction, ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? Whether you be superly excited or you be superly down or the way you perceive something, ask yourself where does it derive from, and try to utilize a different reaction to see how you feel about it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I love that because that's part of it. Like just observing yourself, or even observing yourself as you're doing the reaction. Like I am fully committed to this reaction, but I don't even know if I should be. Do I really feel like I'm not this upset, or I'm not this distraught by what's going on? Like, yeah, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, like to your other point, I've even watched myself in spurts of joy. Like if I just like yes, man, I knew that was gonna happen. Or just like I'm just real happy. I watch myself like, am I really this happy? Is this? Yes, I really am this happy. Keep celebrating, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I love the turn of the conversation, and again, to bring it in perspective when we're talking about monitoring your reactions, the same thing whenever you're when you're dealing with other people, right? When somebody's giving you something, your body language is as important as the way that uh, you know, orally respond to somebody. Like when somebody says something that you feel like you would is disappointing to you, try to have an upbeat body language and see if you because again, you can change that person's perspective in it in a moment as well. But not only that, just changing the way that you think about it, the way that you respond can literally just alternate your entire world. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, because yeah, those conversations and relationships, they really are a mirror to the mirror. Like they they get you in a way that you can't deny it. You can't miss the lesson there. Well, you can miss it, but the reason certain situations happen over and over again is because you are missing that lesson that they're presenting. And again, like sometimes it's hard for people. It's not hard. Sometimes people find it difficult to separate the meaning from their own dislike of the person. And when you realize that one doesn't have to do with the other, like every conversation can have its wisdom. You will get a lot whether you like the person or not. Hopefully, but
I,
you'll learn to like them. Like, oh, they never did anything wrong. That was just my judgment of them, which was based on some other judgments that I held on to, which were not necessarily true. But go ahead.
I, true story. I'm gonna say this real quick. There's a kid, no, there's a man that I was in high school with that had a problem with me in high school. I never knew what the problem was. Um, but we never talked. Like after a while, like it was a big confrontation that happened. And then through years, maybe 10 years out, I tried to friend him on Facebook, denied my friend request. At my 20-year reunion, I tried to say what's up, ignored me, right? Now again, this is a testament to the way that you react, the way that you receive it, and the way that you continue to move forward. Well, my 25-year reunion was this past week, and I saw this person again. And I walked to the table because everybody at the table I know, and then this person, I just went to them just like I went to everybody else, and I shook their hand. And they shook my hand for the first time. And the funny thing is, for the rest of the reunion, I ain't gonna say we were this tight, but we was cool. And
Yeah,
I could just imagine had I bought into it the way that we're talking about for the rest of my life, there's a part of me that would have remained in that place. And that's the way that to be. So um go ahead, Jay.
yeah, and it's like why would you like even from his standpoint? Why would you give someone that much power to just alter your mood? That just means like you could just be so happy. You come in contact with that person, I can't be happy around you. Like what? That's so crazy to me that it's not even worth all of that. And I love that you shared that.
Yeah. So I just want to tell everybody, know it and show it like JClay said. Like, you are who you say you are. It's just that simple. And the reality of it is the outside factors that we always allow to affect the inside factors and dictate what we see and the way that we move, you control all that too. Show, go and show people your world consists of, and it will be real. And
Yeah.
I just want to tell everybody I appreciate you for joining us. Without y'all, we would not be doing this show. We'll be doing something because we're going to continue to grow. But we definitely appreciate you being here because this makes our world better. That's a core belief of mine, and that's the thing that I try to show is why I try to show up as much as we can. And Jay, you can go ahead and take us up out of here, man.
Yeah, appreciate everybody that rocked with us. If you found this helpful, hit that share button, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And just remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode. Yeah.
You.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper, the spiritual teacher. with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything.